so good to be back.
Yeah, that was a nice treatment. Hi. We just got back from our anagathics treatment, and just wanted to express how in Traveler, there you go, how cool it is to have your youth restored. Thank you. And what a
I'll let you go back to work.
Thank you. We were on a date. So we're back at base now, and I'm going to be talking about the rest of Traveler, and kind of getting into the book a little bit better, so you can see. But it is such a liberating experience not to have to age, and that's one of the cool things about Traveler. And when I go back down into the tavern, we'll get into such things as space travel and other things. I am your host, Dr. Jeff Goins. This is another Dwarven Tavern review. Over yonder is Dr. Lisa, and we have had our youth restored one more time, and we do this monthly. I mean, you have to take the anagathics monthly to stop aging. So when we return, I'll be in the tavern, and we'll talk a little bit more about Traveler. Okay, so back in the tavern here, and we are talking about Traveler. As you can see, we're still doing this because it's worthy of a lot of attention. In the book, as we look here a little more closely, the character this book has one of the simplest, most straightforward, and user-friendly sorts of character generation rules possible, because the character generation rules are they're more involved than just your average role-playing game character generation processes, and for that reason, they have included a very straightforward character generation checklist that is incredibly helpful. So here's what you do. It's 14 steps. 14 steps involved in the character generation process. Because if you remember from our last videos, we were talking about your characters can in fact have a very long and glorious career before you even start playing. Well, no, because you actually start playing as soon as you start rolling up the character. That's a misnomer. It's misleading, because when you start generating your character, you start playing before you actually start role-playing your character in the game. But the game's already started when you start rolling up the character that you have started playing as soon as you open the book and start rolling your character. So, here's what we do. Step 1, you roll the characteristics and determine characteristic modifiers, like in, all other video games, or most other video games. Then you choose a home world and its background skills that you get from being on that world. Just like when you're being on Earth, you learn how to walk on Earth 1 gravity and get a tan in sunny parts. That's not what this is. But say, for instance, on Earth in like North America and most capitalistic states, we'll say, you learn how to you might get an automatic skill in commerce or economy or something like that, or language, your country's language. So you gain the background skills. In step 3, you choose a career. You can't choose a career you've already left, and I'll explain that. You roll to qualify for the career. If you qualify, you go to step 4. If you don't qualify, then you can either go to the draft, just kind of throw yourself to the wind and see what happens. And there's a chance that you'll get drafted into the career that you wanted to get into in the first place. And we'll discuss that when we go to the the future videos, which are the interviews with the actual characters who the Taverneers, Lissa, Lyric, and Ian have rolled up, and hopefully Lisa. We'll see if we can get her to roll up a character as well. So you submit yourself to the drafter, or you become a drifter. So you're either a drifter or a drafter. And when you're a drifter, you can take the subclass of that their drifter class, which is like just a scavenger, or a scavenger, and you might have a I'll find it. A barbarian, a wanderer, or a scavenger. So you can do that if you choose, or you can submit to the draft and be drafted into one of the arms of the military, including the merchants. So, if this is your first time on this career, you get the basic training. Basic training is your skills for that class. And in step 5, you choose a specialization. You choose one of the skills and training tables for this career and roll on it. You roll for survival on this career. If you succeed, you go to step 7. If you do not succeed, then events have forced you from this career. This happens a lot. Roll on the mishap table, then go to step 9. We'll give you an example of a mishap. For example, if you're a scholar and you roll on the mishap table, you're injured and you roll on the injury table. Just for instance. And injuries can be nearly killed, severely injured, missing an eye or a limb, scarred, injured, or lightly injured. And all these involve losing a limb, having your physical characteristics reduced by a certain number of points, and so forth. So, and then you can get those points back if you go into debt by 5,000 credits per point that you have to pay back when you get out of that career. So it already starts with plot hooks. Just the whole in debt, you have to go adventure to pay off your medical debts. That is a very common starting point for a lot of characters. Optionally establish a connection with another player or character. Roll for advancement. You roll for events is step 7. And the events are very eventful. Like, for instance, if you're a merchant, you could roll something like a good deal ensures you're living the high life for a few years. You gain a +1 die modifier to any of your mustering out benefit rolls. So, and I'll explain mustering out presently. So you roll for advancements to go to rank up. If you succeed, you choose one of the skills and training tables for this career and roll on it. Increase your rank and take any bonus skills from the ranks table in this career. If you roll less than the number of terms spent in this career, you must leave this career. Military characters, Army, Navy, and Marines, can roll for commission instead of rolling for advancement. And that means that you can either go up in ranks as a non-commissioned officer, like, for example, we will go to, not the drifter, not the citizen, the Army. The NCO ranks, non-commissioned officer ranks, are 0's private, lance corporal, corporal, lance sergeant, sergeant, gunnery sergeant, and sergeant major. So those are your possible non-commissioned officer ranks. When you go up to officer, you become a lieutenant, a captain, a major, a lieutenant colonel, or a general. And those are your commissioned officer ranks. Then, after each term, you go through these steps. Then, after each term, you increase your age by 4 years. The 4-year aging, so you start out at 18 after you go to, and that's one of the things that's so cool about this, because here in the on page 6, it talks about background skills and your education. So you choose your homeworld back here on step 2, and 2A and 2B. You choose your homeworld and your background skills and your education, and it says at this point you are 18 years old. So then you increase your age by 4 year in 4-year increments for every term you spend in your chosen vocation, which is as follows. Agent, which is like law enforcement, intelligence, and corporate. Army, which is support, infantry, and cavalry. Citizen, which is corporate, worker, or a colonist, which is very cool. Drifter, barbarian, wandering scavenger, like I mentioned before. Entertainer, you can be an artist, a journalist, or a performer. Marines is support, star marine, or ground assault. Merchants is merchant marine, free trader, and broker. Navy is line, crew, engineering, gunnery, or flight. Nobility is a special category, which is an administrator, a diplomat, or a dilettante, which a dilettante is like a drifter that gets paid a lot or comes from money, from old money. We know a few of those in our society, don't we? Don't we, kids? No talent, famous for being famous. That's a dilettante. Let's see. Rogue, which can be a thief, an enforcer, or a pirate. Yar. Hoist them to the scuppers. And so forth. Yar. And then you have the scholar, which is the field researcher, the scientist, or the physician, which is, of course, a medical doctor. And lastly is the scouts in this book. There's other books we're going to review as well. But in this book, that's where we're limited. Okay, the scout can be a courier, survey, or exploration. So the scouts, I think scouts kind of embody. There are several character types that embody like the essence of the high sci-fi ideal of traveler, and in my opinion, like the exploration or survey from the scouts, the field researcher from the scholars, and maybe the free trader from the merchants. I mean, all those are like out and about, going to the stars for adventure, which is what we're all about. So let's see where you when you stop. And here on step 9, it says increase your age by 4 years. If your character is 34 or older, you roll for aging. And at that point, you can begin taking anagathics. Now, the anagathics, it makes the gray go away. But more than just hair dye, it actually stops you from aging, like Google's working on at this very moment. So the anagathics keep you at 34 or whatever age you were when you started taking them, but they cost money. It costs a D6 times 2,500 credits per year, or I'm sorry, per term, to use them. So you have to come up with money to keep taking them, and that is another built-in adventure hook. Or another built-in reason to go adventuring, so you can, keep up your youthful appearance. So once there's that, and once you start taking anagathics, you can start whenever you want. It's sci-fi, but when you stop taking them, you begin aging from that point. It's not like Dorian Gray where you start, you stop taking it. Oh, I missed my anagathic treatment. Oh no. Yeah, it's not like that. It's you just start aging normally from that point. So I have a lot of 34-year-old characters playing in my campaign right now who have been in for decades and decades and decades. So if you leave a career other than being kicked out for a mishap, you roll for benefits. And the benefits are cash, in the form of cash. You can get something like, if you're in the Army, one of the benefits is a combat implant. Or you can get a +1 to your intelligence, or a +1 to your education. Weapons, armor, ships, boats, a Traveler's Aid Society membership, which is a really sweet deal, and so forth. So it sets you up for your life of retirement, which is incredibly cool. The point is, I think, and the more I read Traveler, the more I realize that this society is a lot like it is, or it's a lot like it will be in our future if it works out that way. The ideal society is one that the only thing you have to worry about is finding out what's out there. It's almost kind of a Roddenberryan, right? Where the only thing is to explore and to find out what's new and to be the best you can be and all that good stuff, because you can try to amass wealth, but you're generally taken care of, and there's no leveling up, so you don't have to compete. You just have to find what's out there and do, I mean, it's very high adventure, which is reason number 437 that I like this game. So if you have left your current career, then go to step 3 to choose a new career, or step 12 if you wish to finish your character. Otherwise, go to step 5. So you got multiple options. If you go to step 12, you finalize any connections with other characters. Step 13 is you choose a campaign skill pack and allocate skills from that pack. And then step 14 is you purchase starting equipment, and if you can afford it, a spacecraft. So if you can't afford it, you're SOL, but because these, just like a subsidized merchant type R, the fat trader, is 17,600,000 credits starters. This book has a plethora, a small plethora, of ships from which to choose, and very nice detailed floor plans, like the shuttle and the pinnace in the small craft, the ship's boat and the launch, the modular cutter and so forth, the light fighter. And then it has the large ships, and there are supplements, of course, that include the more ship types, and it's all incredibly cool. The mercenary cruiser is 80 million credits, which, if I had to make payments on an $80 million ship, I would be a mercenary also. A yacht is 8 million credits and so forth. Heavy freighters, 90 million credits. My goodness, that's crazy. But with a freighter, you can jump and do lots of trading and stuff like that, and make your money the way you so choose. And there are other things like the Ajanti High Lightning, which is, for example, let me back up here a little bit. Your blah 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 blah. Your heavy freighter, which is a 1,000-ton distributed hull, 1,000-ton displacement, not how much it weighs. It's 90 million credits. It has let's see. Trying to find the amount of crew. Armor, jump drive, maneuver drive, power plant, bridge, fuel, cargo, 8 staterooms. So 8 staterooms, and monthly. It's got all the monthly maintenance cost and life support cost and so forth. Cargo capacity 500 tons. It has 8 staterooms for the crew. It says, however, such vessels are perennially understaffed. So it has a crew of 8. The Ajanti High Lightning is almost 90, a crew of almost 90,000. So you go from small workable starting ships to enormous military battle cruisers that you know, part the stars as they pass through the galaxies. So after you get your character created, you get your weapons and your equipment, and you figure out what you're doing with the rest of your life. And if you're taking anti-gathics, that's a long time. Now, the aliens. Now, these aliens are dudes like the Aslan. I mentioned this in a previous video, but you have the Aslan, which are like Leonids, characters, and they have very feline phenotype traits. And then you have the Droin, which are a small. It says here that they are a small race derived from winged herbivorous gatherers. So they are the winged herbivores. Kind of reminds me of the Hawk guy in the movie in Flash Gordon, you know, the Hawkmen. Only these are literally, they have hawk faces and so forth. You have the hivers, which are just a mass of tentacles. And one of the tentacles, specialized tentacles, have eye pods on them. So they're the most alien of all the races that are known and explored. Now, of course, sci-fi, big. And I'm going to share a link right here with this incredibly cool website that has the known space in the Traveler universe, and in its place in the galaxy is just, I mean, when you can see the entire galaxy, you can see that this space is not even visible. You have to zoom in to actually see the space in the galaxy. But it in itself is incredibly enormous because it has thousands of inhabited worlds. But it's just a tiny little place in the whole galaxy. So it just gives you an idea of the scope and scale and size. So go to that website and check that out. In the scale of the and I can find a thing here, a wee map, I believe, a sector map. Well, I'll just show you. This is a this right here on the last page is a it's a sector map that's done in its signature hex paper, and it is 40 parsecs long ways by 20 parsecs wide, which is, that's an enormous amount of space, literally space. And the Imperium is hundreds of parsecs by hundreds and hundreds of parsecs because it's a rectangle, and it's just this tiny little part in the entire, because you know our own galaxy, our own Milky Way galaxy is over 100,000 light years in width and 10,000 light years thick. The one drawback, if it is even a drawback in this game, is that the space is laid out flat, and the maps are laid out flat because it's not, you know, three-dimensional. And when this game came out, it wasn't computers, you know, showing everything, so everything had to be written down on a piece of paper, which is inherently 2D. So that's the one drawback, but you know, it's still cool. The Kukri are the centaurs. They're centauroids. They descended from herbivores, not unlike horses. And then finally we have the Vargur and the Jodani. The Vargur are just about one of my favorite character classes because they're dogs. They're dog dudes. And they were actually, let's see if I can find it there, an intelligent major race derived from ancient genetic manipulations of Terran carnivore chaser stock, apparently dating from approximately the same time as humanity was scattered to the stars. So they were genetically engineered to be a workforce, maybe guards or whatever, and they just kind of went off like most colonists do. They went off and formed their own colony, and now they are part of they're not part of the Imperium, but they're working with the Imperium. They have their own space frontier and everything of the Vargar space. And then, of course, the Jodani are independently descended from human stock transplanted by the Ancients. And the Ancients are, of course, the generic people who were here, you know, eons before we were, and did all this manipulation and stuff like that. So you've got skills that are pretty standard fare. Everything is done with 2d6, as I mentioned before. So for some reason it's much easier to talk about. Combat, it's the same. It's straight up. You can grapple. You can fire into combat. There's explosions, thrown weapons. The combat considerations. You got free actions, extended actions. It's all very straightforward. It's all very straightforward and marvelously simple. And it still allows for modifications. A friend of mine added a house rule in which weapons didn't just have to hit you; they had to penetrate your armor. So you'd roll to see if you hit, then you'd have to make a penetration roll to see if you got through their armor, which makes perfect sense if you want to play it that way. And that was cool. I mean, it worked out just fine. It didn't slow the game down because it was just 2d6, and you didn't have to add a bunch of modifiers. Well, you do, but I don't know. Counting to 20 is much more complicated than counting to 6, apparently, or 12. So then you've got encounters and dangers in this table, or in this book, which allows you to instantly roll up alien creatures. And it has a group of sample animals, which it talks about it in extremely generic terms because that's the way you would have to do it. Because if you've got a million different worlds with trillions of different species of life, then you wouldn't be able to name them all. So you'd have to go with terms like howler, skitterer, living net, scourges, thunderers, and so forth. So when I come back, I'm going to be talking about the rest of the book, so don't go away. And we will see you again. Check them out at Mongoose Publishing, which are the folks who have this now. And they can be found here, right there. So again, stay tuned. Come back for the next video, and we'll talk more about Traveler. Again, I am Dr. Jeff Goins, and we wish for you to want for nothing but adventure. First I feared it, then I charged. Don't forget to check us out at www.dwarventavern.net. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.